Good morning and welcome back. It's Kate, Michael and Sally again, as we do, talking about leadership and organizations. And today I think we're in a really interesting place again, where lots of the country are getting back to work. Certainly in England, we've seen since Monday a real big drive back into work and non-essential retail opening, and here in Wales, to a lesser extent, but still lots and lots of workplaces opening up again. And that's got us talking and thinking and chatting with our clients and engaging with our clients about what does that actually mean and how is it going in terms of that re-engagement into work. So Kate, you and I have been talking during the week, and I think we've had some really interesting conversations around this. What do you think is going on with people at the moment in terms of the return to work?
Yeah, well, I'm hearing that people are now getting back into the workplace more frequently. And I think that's brought up some issues about different people's different interpretations of the rules and the protocols that we've got. So there's people that think that they, can get close to you because they're wearing their masks and it would be safe to do so. And there's people that would be very concerned about doing that and wouldn't even want to go into a room where there's more than 6 people. So I think that's probably, there's a personality issue, a values differences maybe about how we interpret and follow the guidelines we're given. And I think it's just going to be really interesting to see how organisations manage that.
Yeah. So what actually we thought was quite sorry, go on, Kate. Sorry.
I was going to say some will be quite regulated and others I think might leave things a bit looser. And how will that make us feel? And what assumptions might we then make about other people? And how might it affect our relationships if people are behaving in a way which we would see as a breach of the rules or a danger? So yeah, it's going to be an interesting time.
What we saw is a very simple situation where there were ostensibly 4 different methods or 4 different approaches, the Northern Irish, the Scottish, the English and the Welsh. You're actually saying that there's 62 million variations of what's going on. That what we're seeing is that everybody, every organisation, every individual is interpreting rules differently.
Yes, and I think people aren't consistent about the way they apply the rules. Because sometimes you need to do stuff that you need to do, and so you might bend the rules or go outside the rules.
Yeah.
And then other times you might not, and the same with other people. So there's going to be lots of variation and inconsistency, which I think can be very upsetting in a work setting.
Massively. I've got loads of examples where I've seen that. What are you observing at the moment, Sally, with the clients you're working with and with conversations you're having?
Well, I would pick up on Kate's point about difference. I think before the pandemic, some of the areas that we would have been focusing on with organisations is helping them with understanding individual difference and working with different personalities, and really encouraging people to notice other people's differences and to see those as potential strengths. But also to encourage people from a self-awareness perspective and an emotional intelligence perspective to be considerate and respectful of other people's difference, to tolerate that, to be patient with that. But actually what Kate's drawing out is this additional layer of complexity. We now just don't have individual differences in terms of personality and preference. We now have this additional layer of complexity over the top about the way we are interpreting our space, our reality of a situation. Just this week, I've started to go back and meet with clients face to face. I've been noticing my own personal reactions to that, getting stuck in traffic, taking longer to get there, feeling perhaps a little bit resentful about that. That was something I was really surprised about. And then just today, I met with a lovely group. I was delighted to be back with them, but we were in a large room with the windows open. And whilst I was really excited to connect with them again, face to face and be with them, when I arrived at the building, straight away, I realized we were going to be conducting our strategic thinking afternoon in face masks and 6 feet apart. And that really struck me as thinking, whilst I and they were all excited to be back together and face to face, actually, we weren't face to face. So it introduced another dynamic to that context. And it really felt quite uncomfortable that the thing we were expecting to do to get back together again didn't feel the same as it did before.
Now that's a really interesting perspective. And given the chance, or given the choice between a Zoom conversation where you can see people's faces, or a face-to-face meeting where you can't because somebody's wearing a face mask, which would you go for?
Yeah, no, yeah, I have reflected on this. I mean, we, you know, as psychologists, we know there are tremendous benefits to being face to face, and that actually for things like accelerating trust, for encouraging knowledge sharing, you know, you can't beat face to face. But then there's also a side of me that I'm quite introverted. And actually, I would, in that particular case thing, I would much rather see the you that I can see on screen and see you smiling, see you nodding, you know, those sorts of things that you can't quite see when people are, you know, have a face mask. So there was a moment there where I thought, maybe I'm happy to go back to Zoom. I don't know.
But I'm a flag waving extrovert extraordinaire here, and for me, I've got so used to Zoom. So I now have clients I'm working with, projects I'm working on, where I physically never met the people. But because we've got so used to Zoom, it's not an alien creature anymore. We're getting used to watching the body language. We're getting used to picking up the signals. It is more tiring, clearly, and we've talked about that before. But you know, if given the choice for me, and you know, a conversation, I'd sooner have it over Zoom where I can see the whole face and try to read the body language. Than
I think one of the things that struck me this week, though, is the importance, if you are going to retain a blended or more hybrid workplace, is that you do have really, really good quality technology or good quality connections, internet connections. You know, I had a whole hour with a client recently, and the connection was so poor, it was dreadful. And it was a real struggle to have a good quality conversation, you know, through that. You know, so, you know, these are all the sorts of things I think that organizations are starting to think about. You know, do we move towards a more hybrid environment where some people can work from home? We might create hubs in local communities. You know, frontline workers obviously are used to being back in the workplace, but, you know, these considerations are now being picked up by organizations. And so one of the things that I'm starting to do is to help some organizations think through what might be the future of work for them, in terms of, you know, where will people work, how will people work, and consulting with people and helping them be a part of that process, I think, is really important.
You're opening up a whole new subject, I guess, and we probably need to draw this to a close. But maybe next week we'll come back and pick that up again, because I think there is a danger of moving without that consultation and moving without that engagement.
I think it's important to say, though, that actually we're not talking about that formal consultation as such. No. I think it's really important to encourage people to contribute to that learning about what have we really enjoyed about the last year, in terms of how have we worked differently, what's worked, what do we want to take forward, but also a reflection on what is the type of work that we need to do and get together to do it.
Yes.
And getting people really just debating the future of work and what it means for them and their roles, rather than just, I want to be at home or I want to be in the office.
So I guess the message from today is that it's complicated. We've added an additional layer of complexity around people's willingness to comply with rules, and, as Kate was saying, our interpretation of rules. And that is now, you know, put into the mix on how we interact with people, how we work with people. And then sitting next to that is the sort of organizational issue around returning to work and consultation, and how we engage with people to create the new culture, to create the new rituals, the new routines. A huge subject. Okay. Perhaps we leave it there and come back and pick this subject up next week. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you all very soon. Take care.